at Wooding Town, Hong local government area of Adamawa State. He attended government secondary school, Pella, where he obtained a senior school certificate examination. Due to his quest for education, he proceeded to Federal Polytechnic, Ilaru, Ogun State, in 1996 and graduated in 2002 with higher national diploma in accountancy. On graduation, he got enrolled and was shortlisted for screening exercise at the prestigious Nigerian Defense Academy as a member of Short Service Course 33. Upon completion of the military training at Nigerian Defense Academy, he was commissioned as a second lieutenant and posted to the Nigerian Army Finance Corps on 30th April to bodies, among which are fellow certified national accountants, fellow certified economists. Others are shown on the screen. The senior officer has the following decorations as accolades: Past Staff Course, Forces Service Star, Meritorious Service Star. Others are shown on the screen. The senior officer has the following operational experiences: Operation Restore Order, Operation Zaman Lafia, Operation Lafia Dole, and Operation Restore Hope. Colonel Aro M. Kadala is happily married to Mrs. Magdalene, and the union is blessed with 6 children, 3 boys and 3 girls. His hobbies include playing volleyball, playing golf, hiking, and listening to Christian music. At this junction, I have the singular honor and privilege to invite to the podium our resource person this morning to deliver his lecture. The resource person, sir. Please, a round of applause.
Thank you, Loki. The Director of Chaplain Services, Protestant, my brother and my friend, my coursemate, and my close friend among other friends, Colonel Aaron Suna, Commander, 81 Deep Finance and Account, who happens to be a dear friend too, senior officers, ladies and gentlemen. This light. This light. Can the light be behind me? Is it possible? Or by the side? Because it's really going to affect. Probably that way. That way is better. What a privilege for me to be here this morning to rub minds together about chaplain in the Nigerian Army and our financial management. When the topic was given to me, it was chaplain and his personal finance. I had a little thinker about it to make it broader, but it will still give us the desired result. The reason is, when you give a topic, there should be a topic and a rider. For some of us that did a research methodology in school, they say that you must have dependent and independent variable in every topic. So I added some things to it to make it more richer so that we'll drive home. During the course of the lecture, I may stop. However, this is a training session, and I want to make it as ethical as possible for us to know that this is a training session. God's willing, I will try. The presentation may take about 45 minutes or thereabout before we enter into the discussion session. I will prefer us discussing extensively when it is time for question and answer. But for the presentation, I will try as much as possible to be formal and follow the normal procedure. This morning, in about 45 minutes or thereabout, as I said earlier, I shall be discussing a topic titled Personal Finance and Managerial Integrity, a critical study of chaplains in the Nigerian Army. The personal finance refers to the management of income, expenditure, debt, saving, and investment in order to achieve stability and security. It requires discipline in allocating utilizing financial resources for both short-term needs and long-term goals. Ministerial integrity, on the other hand, refers to the consistent demonstration of honesty, accountability, discipline by spiritual leaders in their personal and professional lives. Together, personal finance and integrity plays a crucial role in sharpening chaplains' credibility. Financial literacy, therefore, becomes critical for chaplains because they live in the same economy as other citizens while also carrying out additional spiritual responsibilities that demand trust and transparency. In developed countries, government imbibe financial education into national policies and military welfare programs. In the United States, for example, service members receive counseling on budgeting, debt management, and investment through the Office of Financial Readiness. Despite this structure, many still report financial stress, often tied to debt and poor savings. In Africa, the challenge is more acute. Nigeria faces persistent infiltration, unstable credit system, and limited financial education. Within this reality, military personnel, including chaplains, struggle with debt, weak savings, culture, and heavy social obligation. These pressures influence not only their household, but also their moral, credibility, and ability to serve effectively. A chaplain is a spiritual officer assigned to secular institutions, including the military, hospitals, and schools, to provide moral, emotional, and spiritual care. In the Nigerian Army, chaplains combine professional duties with spiritual obligations such as tithing, charitable giving, and personal responsibilities. Personal finance involves managing available income, allowances, and investment for current needs and future stability. Ministerial integrity is directly linked to the reality because poor financial management reduces credibility, while disciplined stewardship reinforces moral authority. The relationship among these concepts is evident. Faith commitment reduces disposable income, while financial pressure increases vulnerability. Consequently, finance and integrity are inseparably connected in chaplain practices. Ideally, chaplains should display financial discipline, stability, and generosity, serving as example for the officers and soldiers under their care. In reality, however, many faces persistent pressure from modest salary, family responsibility, compulsory tithing, and raising social demands. In desperation, some chaplains engage in betting, Ponzi schemes, and risky ventures that compromise quick returns but usually end in financial loss. Such practice demands their ministerial credibility and weaken institutional trust. The problem lies in limited attention to chaplains' financial welfare within existing military structures. As a result, a gap exists between expectation and reality that affects their families, ministries, and professional effectiveness. The purpose of this paper, therefore, is to critically examine the intersection of personal finance and ministerial integrity among chaplains in the Nigerian Army. The paper is limited to chaplains in the Nigerian Army, though lessons may be applied to wider African contexts. It is assumed that the chaplain face similar financial pressure as other officers, compounded by unique spiritual and social obligations. The aim of this paper, therefore, is to critically examine the relationship between personal finance and ministerial integrity among chaplains in the Nigerian Army with a view to making recommendations. This paper shall cover the following: overview of personal finance and ministerial integrity in chaplaincy, effects of financial realities on ministerial integrity and professional effectiveness of the chaplains, challenges of sustaining personal finance and integrity among chaplains, and strategies for strengthening financial discipline and ministerial integrity, starting with overview of personal finance and ministerial integrity. A chaplain is a spiritual leader commissioned to provide personal care, counseling, and religious support across diverse contexts such as military, hospitals, schools, and prisons. Their role extended beyond worship to include moral guidance, emotional support, and facilitation of rights. In the Nigerian Army, chaplains stand as moral exemplar who credibly depends on not only spiritual devotion but also on their personal conduct. Officers, soldiers, and congregants expect them to embody integrity in every area of their life by offering a safe and non-judgmental presence. Chaplains promote healing and spiritual well-being. Their effectiveness, however, is influenced by consistently they balance faith, character, and financial stewardship in their personal and professional responsibilities. Personal finance refers to managing an individual financial resources, including income, expenses, savings, investment, and debt, with the goal of stability and long-term growth. For chaplains, financial management holds unique implications. Beyond household budgeting, their finances serve as public testimony to discipline and stewardship. A chaplain who plans prudently inspires confidence, while one traps in poor management risk undermining credibility. Effective financial planning involves creating budgets, tracking expenses, building savings, investing responsibility, managing debts wisely, and building emergency funds. For spiritual leaders, this practice reinforces accountability, demonstrating that integrity is holistic. Consequently, the management of personal finance for chaplains is inseparably tied to their credibility and moral moral and spiritual guide. Chaplain, despite their spiritual calling, face the same financial demand as other professionals. They must balance salaries, allowances with food, education, healthcare, and daily expenses. Their family expects stability, while their officers and soldiers expect generosity. Thus, chaplain operate in a dual space where financial discipline directly affects ministerial authority. The challenge is to remain accountable stewards, avoiding wasteful spending while meeting obligations at home and within their community. Prioritizing financial planning ensures stability and creates freedom to focus on ministry. Without this balance, chaplain risk distraction, strained household, and loss of credibility. Therefore, financial stability enables them to fulfill spiritual duties without compromising integrity or effectiveness. Military chaplain combines the identity of commissioned officers with the responsibility of clergy, creating a distinct financial profile. Like their peers, they receive salary, housing, and operational allowances, yet their obligation extend further through tithes, offering, and charitable givings. Unlike other officers, they are expected to display generosity as part of their spiritual witnesses. This expectation increases financial burdens and create unique pressure. Chaplain's credibility depends on generosity, yet excessive giving may weaken their household. Their dual identity makes careful stewardship critical. Thus, while their pay structure resemble other officers rather, their financial reality are heavier and more complex, requiring prudence to preserve both professional dignity and ministerial credibility. I pause. A chaplain is expected to give much in the church and to take care of the family at home. Where either of the two is missing, the family will look at you as irresponsible father, and the congregants will look at you as a stingy chaplain that does not bother to care for welfare of its members. So, it is expected that as a chaplain, you must balance the two. Nigeria's economic reality intensifies this financial strength. Persistent inflation erodes household income, reducing purchasing power for all citizens, including chaplains. While salaries remain fixed, rising costs of food, housing, education force chaplains into difficult trade-offs. At the same time, officers, soldiers, and congregants often turn to them for financial helps in emergencies. Declining such requests risk being viewed as lacking compassion. Yet, constant generosity drains personal resources. Consequently, chaplains often become financial safety nets at their own expenses, leading to long-term vulnerability. The financial burdens are therefore magnified by external dependency, which undermine resilience and erode their ability to plan for sustainable stability within the Nigerian Army context. Religious obligation also shape chaplains' financial commitment. Many chaplains' tradition represented in Nigerian Army requires tithing of 10% of gross income, alongside regular offering and commission and mission support. These practices are viewed as non-negotiable, especially for clergies expected to model faithfulness in stewardship. While they strengthen credibility within the church, they also reduce disposable income for pressing family needs such as feeding, education, and healthcare. Unlike statutory deductions, these obligations are tied to moral authority, leaving little flexibility. Consequently, chaplains face persistent tension between faithfulness and financial stability. Their credibility depends on fulfilling both, yet doing so deepens financial strength and complicates household priorities. Military service itself compounds financial instability. Chaplains experience frequent transfers, deployments, and relocation that demand significant personal expenses beyond official allowances. Relocating families, paying for temporary housing, and adjusting children's schooling often exceed provided stipends. A chaplain that is on posting supposed to go with the family. Hello. I deliberately pause to explain this. A chaplain that is on posting should travel to his new location with his family. The parking allowance paid by the Nigerian Army is limited in comparison with moving your family and catering for the immediate need during the course of your posting. Because we know that we lack accommodation now in the NA. Am I right? So, wisdom is profitable to direct. Military services itself compound financial instability. Chaplains experience frequent transfer, deployment, and relocation, as I said earlier. Relocating families paying for temporary housing, adjusting children's schooling often exceed provided spendings. Operationally, I'm having problem with this slide. Oh, sorry, I'm serious. I'm having problem with this slide. Preferably, we off it. It's really disturbing me. And I do commode. Better. Thank you. Operational allowances rarely cover hidden costs, forcing chaplains to borrow from informal sources or rely on family contribution. Junior chaplains with smaller salaries are particularly vulnerable to debt cycles that restrict financial growth. Unpredictably, mobility therefore obstructs long-term planning and prevent chaplains from achieving financial stability. This instability not only affects household welfare, but also distract them from ministry, weakening both their credibility and professional effectiveness in service. Broader socio-economic pressure further push chaplains towards risky coping strategies. High interest rate, weak credit system, and limited financial education leave them exposed to unsafe options. Many have been lured into pyramid scheme, online betting like sport betting and Baba Ijebu, and Ponzi networks such as infamous MMM in Nigeria. Though intended as survival strategy, this venture often results in deeper financial losses and repeatable damage. As critical leaders, such missteps carry broader consequences, eroding the trust of officers, soldiers, and congregants alike. The Bible warns, "He that maketh haste to be rich shall not be innocent." Hence, weak financial literacy exposes chaplains to destructive schemes, threatening both their stability and their ministerial integrity. Next is effects on financial realities on ministerial integrity and personal effectiveness of chaplain. Financial reality shape the personal, spiritual, and professional lives of chaplains. This reality influences their ability to balance ministerial responsibilities and military defense and military demands. Some key effects include moral and well-being, ministerial credibility, family stability, and professional effectiveness, starting with moral moral and well-being. Effective effect on morale and well-being is one of the most immediate outcome of financial strain. Chaplain, unable to meet family obligation, often face frustration, discouragement, and distractions. Salaries that fail to mismatch inflation push them towards borrowing, delayed payment, and increased stress. These challenges weaken chaplain's force on ministry because attention shifts to financial survival rather than service. Persistent economic stress also contributes to mental health and risk such as depression and fatigue. Officers and soldiers expect chaplain to embody resilience, yet they frequently struggle with hidden burdens. Consequently, financial stability steadily erode morale, leaving chaplain less prepared to sustain their demanding dual role. Effects on morale and well-being also extend into deployment contexts. During operations, chaplain must inspire hope among other officers and soldiers while privately wrestling with their own financial crisis. This consideration amplifies emotional strength as they provide encouragement without securing stability for their families. In such situations, some chaplains opt demanding coping mechanisms, such as high-rate borrowing or postponing family responsibilities. This habit deepens stress and weakens resilience. As a result, financial instability undermines chaplains' morale, reducing motivation and emotional strength in high-pressured contexts. This weak foundation flows into broader challenges, particularly credibility and professional confidence in both ministerial and military roles. Next is ministerial credibility. Effects on ministerial credibility is central because chaplains are expected to model financial prudence and moral uprightness. Officers, soldiers, and congregants carefully observe their conduct in personal finances. When chaplain becomes indebted, borrows excessively, or engage in unquestionable ventures, such as Ponzi scheme, their reputation suffers. A chaplain who defaults on loans or relies on officers and soldiers for financial rescue undermine authority. Such failure weakens confidence in their message of discipline and stewardship. As Proverbs observe, a good name is rather to be chosen than great riches. Once financial credibility is compromised, moral authority becomes difficult to maintain. Effects of on ministerial credibility also impact the wider chaplaincy institution. Officers, soldiers, and community tend to generalize misconduct, judging the whole chaplaincy by individual lapses. Nigerian society has witnessed church leaders embroiled in financial scandals that eroded institutional respect. If chaplain repeat similar mistake, doubt about integrity spread across both military and religious contexts. Consequently, financial mismanagement diminishes the chaplain's moral voice, undermining trust during preaching, counseling, and decision making. Thus, weak financial integrity does not only harm individual but also tarnish institutional credibility, paving the way for more severe challenges in maintaining spiritual influence across the Nigerian army. What of family stability? Effect on family stability becomes visible when chaplain struggles to meet household obligations due to financial strain. Limited salaries, further reduced by religious commitment, often leave little for education, healthcare, feeding. Spouses may become resentful when income is diverted to meet congregational demands, while children experience the consequences of unpaid bills or unmet needs. This trend destabilizes the home, which is central to the chaplain's personal and professional well-being. Financial weakness, therefore, creates a cycle in which family insecurity undermines readiness for effective ministry and reduces confidence in chaplain as moral exemplars. Effect on family stability also influence public perception of chaplains. Officers and soldiers often judge spiritual leaders by observing their household, expecting their homes to reflect discipline and order. When a chaplain's family suffers visible financial hardship, respect weakens, and receptive to spiritual counseling declines. In many cases, chaplain takes risky pressure, such as unregulated ventures in attempt to meet household needs. Such action intensify instability, creating greater strain. Therefore, financial weakness at home produces broader challenges undermining ministerial balances, reducing household harmony, and damaging institutional respect for chaplains' credibility within the Nigerian army. Personal effectiveness. Effect on personal effectiveness is evidence when financial concern dominate attention. Chaplains weighed down by debt, unpaid bills, and economic stress lost focus on personal and operational work. Worry over school fees or loans consumes the time and mental energy meant for officers and soldiers' morale. During deployment, professional distraction is more visible as chaplains provide only partial attention to demanding tasks. Financial burdens, therefore, directly interfere with professional standards, diminishing chaplains' ability to offer guidance and support during critical missions. This reduction of focus significantly undermines operational cohesion. Effect on professional effectiveness further erode institutional trust. Officers and soldiers expect chaplains to represent more moral stability, but financial recklessness weakens their perceptions. A chaplain who cannot manage personal finances is often doubted as a counselor or on resilience and discipline. Over time, such doubt reduces the value of officers and soldiers' place on chaplain presence and teaching. Consequently, financial weakness damages professionals' credibility, limiting the chaplain's authority and contributing to unit cohesion. This erosion of trust connects directly to the broader challenges of income, expectation, risk behavior that defines chaplain's financial struggle. Next is challenges of sustaining personal finance and integrity among chaplains. Financial challenges affecting chaplains arise from structural, economic, and spiritual realities. These difficulties weaken not only household survival, but also ministerial credibility. Four challenges stand out as particularly critical: independence, inadequate income, and inflation. high social and spiritual expectation, limited financial literacy, and susceptibility to risky financial practices, starting with inadequate income and inflation. Inadequate income and inflation remains the foundation of Chaplain's financial struggles. Salaries are standardized across the military. Yet, inflation erodes purchasing power and reduces the value of allowances. Meeting essential needs such as food, education, and healthcare becomes increasingly difficult. Spiritual obligations like tithes and offering further reduces disposable income, creating strain between financial stewardship and religious duty. As scripture remains, the laborer is worthy of his reward. In practice, however, chaplain receives compensation that fails to reflect rising living costs. This mismatch forces many into borrowing, limiting long-term planning, and undermining their integrity as a model of prudence. Inadequate income and inflation also trap chaplains in cycle of debt and dependence. Parking allowance rarely cover actual costs, forcing them to rely on informal loans or family contributions. As obligation accumulates, debt becomes a persistent burden, reinforcing financial instability. The Bible cautioned, the borrower is servant to the lender. Chaplains who fell into debt risk, compromising their authority as financial vulnerability affects decision-making and credibility. There is need for military leadership, therefore, to review salaries and allowances regularly, while chaplain may consider critical side engagement. Consequently, addressing these challenges would provide space for disciplined stewardship and preserve ministerial integrity. Let's see high social spiritual expectation. High social and spiritual expectation create another critical challenges. Officers, soldiers, congregants, and even communities often turn to chaplains for financial assistance during crises such as medical emergencies, school fees, or funerals. Churches further require them to tithe, fund missions, and support charity. While scripture calls leaders to generosity, it is more blessed to give than to receive. Such expectations drain already limited resources. Chaplains are forced to balance personal family needs with social obligations, a constant tension that risks leaving them financially depleted and emotional strained, threatening both household harmony and ministerial credibility. High social and spiritual expectation also affect family relationship and professional perception. Spouses may resent continuous financial sacrifice made by outsiders, while officers and soldiers may interpret refusal to assist as lack of compassion. The Bible says, if any provide not for his household, he is what? He is what? Good. And he denies the faith thereof. Such dual pressures weaken both household stability and chaplain's moral authority within the military. There is need for church authority to establish welfare support system, for military leadership to create relief funds. Consequently, easing these external demands will allow chaplain to serve compassionately while preserving family integrity and professional trust. Next is limited financial literacy. Limited financial literacy reduces chaplains' ability to manage resources responsibly. Many lack training in budgeting, debt management, and investment, leaving them unprepared for financial crisis. Without such knowledge, they often overspend, fail to save, or mismanage accounts. Jesus emphasized the importance of foresight. Which of you, intending to build a tower, sitteth not down first and count the cost? Chaplain, who fails to plan adequately, compromise their own household and diminish credibility as model of discipline. This gap makes financial literacy not just a personal necessity, but also a ministerial requirement tied to integrity. Limited financial literacy further exposes chaplain to exploitation without proper knowledge. Many are lured into high-risk venture with little understanding of consequences, including Ponzi schemes and unregulated investment. Some unintentionally mislead congregants by promoting schemes they themselves trust. Poor financial literacy also blocks access to safe and regulated opportunities for savings and investment. Scripture observes, true wisdom is an house builded, and by understanding it is established. There is need for the Nigerian Army Authority to introduce financial education programs, while the chaplaincy could integrate stewardship training in all unit, brigade, and div chaplains. Consequently, improving financial literacy would promote resilience and sustain ministerial integrity. Next is susceptibility to risk financial practices. Susceptibility to risky financial practices arises when chaplain, desperate to supplement inadequate income, pursue quick return ventures. Many turn to support sport betting, pyramid schemes, or online platform hoping for relief. Nigerian history with Ponzi network like MMM demonstrate the widespread losses caused by such practices. The Bible warns, he that makes haste to be rich shall not be innocent. For chaplains, entanglement into these schemes result not only in financial loss, but also repeatable damages. Missteps erode trust, undermining both spiritual leadership and professional authorities within the military. Susceptibility to risky financial practices also create institutional concerns. Officers and soldiers expect chaplains to model integrity, yet involvement in fraud weakens respect and moral influence. Once compromised, spiritual authority is difficult to rebuild, and indebtedness reduces professional focus. The Bible counsels, be content with such things as you have. Therefore, there is the need for chaplain to embrace contentment, while military leadership may establish oversight to prevent exploitation. Consequently, tackling these challenges would protect chaplains' integrity, strengthen institutional confidence, and reinforces chaplains' role as moral anchor within the Nigerian Army. Now, to strategy for sustaining financial discipline and ministerial integrity. Some strategies to mitigate the challenges of personal finances among chaplains include salary and welfare reforms to address inadequate income, institutional support to ease social and spiritual expectation, financial literacy development, safeguard against risky practices, moderate living, and disciplined savings and investing wisely, starting with salary and welfare reforms. Salary and welfare reforms could address chaplains' struggle with inflation and inadequate income. Nigerian Army leadership could introduce a 5-year regular reviews of salary and allowances to reflect economic reality. Parking allowances would also require adjustment to meet actual costs of deployment and family resettlement. Other militaries, such as the United States Army, already provide cost of living adjustment to sustain morale. Adopting similar reforms in Nigeria could ensure chaplain maintaining dignity in service and reduce reliance on borrowing. Such reforms could ease household pressure, strengthen morale, and allow chaplains to devote greater focus to their ministerial and professional duties. Salaries and welfare reforms would also demand chaplains' accountability in financial engagement. Transparent record keeping of allowances and welfare support is necessary to maintain credibility. As Paul taught, let all things be done decently and in order. Therefore, there is the need for the Army Authority to review salaries every 5 years. Church leaders need to advocate consistently for chaplains' welfare and chaplains to uphold disciplined stewardship. This combines responsibility, may reduce financial strength, rebuild trust, and improve operational and ministerial performance, reinforcing the integrity essential for chaplain practices within the Nigerian Army. A look at institutional support for social and spiritual expectations. Institutional support for social and spiritual expectation may reduce external demand on chaplains. Nigerian Army unit could create welfare funds to cover officers and soldiers' emergencies, such as medical bills that are not covered by National Health Insurance Scheme, funerals, and school fees. Church leaders may establish benevolent fund for mission projects, charitable works, and congregational aid. By shifting responsibility to organized institutions, chaplain may preserve household stability while still embodying compassion. Institutional structures would relieve chaplain from direct pressure, ensuring resources are available without depleting personal income or creating resentment. This approach could balance compassion with sustainability. Institutional support would also safeguard household harmony and professional credibility. Families often resent sacrifice made for outsiders, while officers and soldiers misinterpret refusal as lack of care. Scripture emphasizes, if any provide not for his household, he is what? He is what? You are sleeping. He is what? And he denied the faith thereof. He's worse than infidel. Am I right? I hope I'm talking to the pastor also. Am I the one to quote Bible for you? Eh? Okay, let's take that again. The scripture what? Emphasize that if any provide not for his family, he is what? And denies what? Thereof. Abi? Good. Now, let me pause a little. Okay, before that. Therefore, there is need for church leaders to set up chaplain welfare schemes, military leadership to administer emergency assistance at unit level, and chaplain to direct requests into these systems. These measures could preserve family unity, reduce tension, and sustain ministerial credibility in the face of competing expectations. Let me pause a little. What I'm trying to explain here is that let there be institutional structure in place that takes care of what? Running of the church. Hello? Because if a member is having problem and he comes to the chaplain to seek for help, the chaplain will only bring out money from his pocket. Assuming the person that comes to the director is a brigadier general with financial crisis, and the director is a lieutenant colonel, he expects the director to give him 200,000 to 300,000, while his salary is almost twice that of the director. By the time the director gives that kind of money, you see the director is going down, and going down will even affect the family. Is somebody hearing me? Good. So what we are trying to say, let's advocate now as a church. Let us establish institutional structures that takes care of all reasonable expenditures in the church. I mean reasonable, not every expenditure. Next is financial literacy development. Financial literacy development could improve chaplains' ability to manage money responsibly. The Nigerian Army could integrate financial education into chaplaincy training, covering budgeting, savings, and debt control. I hope Commandant is not in this. Though the incoming is not here, but I think the outgoing can give him this one. Church leaders could organize seminars during retreat, inviting financial experts to teach chaplain practical skills. Proverbs remains, the prudent man foreseeth the evil, and he hideth himself. Chaplain who understand financial principles may avoid exploitation, make wiser decisions, and model disciplined stewardship for the officers and soldiers under their care. Consequently, structured literacy programs would build resilience and credibility simultaneously. Financial literacy development would also reduce vulnerability to fraudulent schemes. Without knowledge, many chaplains lost resources to private schemes or risky ventures. Training in ethical investment and regulated savings could provide safe alternative. The director of chaplain may include stewardship courses in theological curricula, while the Nigerian Army could partner with banks to develop chaplain-specific savings and loan packages. Therefore, there is need for the Directorate of Chaplain to organize regular financial literacy sessions, church leadership to promote stewardship as a virtue, and chaplain to apply acquired knowledge diligently. These steps could strengthen both household security and institutional trust. What of safeguard against risky financial practices? Safeguards against risky financial practices protect chaplain from exposure to fraudulent schemes. Nigerian Army leadership could establish policies restricting officers, including chaplains, from unregulated financial ventures. The Directorate of Chaplain may also introduce accountability system requiring disclosure of external engagement. Peer support network could be used to encourage financial transparency and among the chaplains. The Bible warns, he that maketh haste to be rich shall not be innocent. With such safeguards, chaplains could be less vulnerable to predatory schemes, preserving their personal finances and ministerial reputation. Safeguard against risky practices would also restore institutional confidence in chaplains' leadership. Officers and soldiers respect leaders whose personal lives demonstrate consistency, integrity, and commitment. Financial regulators could collaborate with the Nigerian Army to monitor illegal schemes targeting military officers and soldiers. Church leaders may also provide pastoral counseling for chaplains affected by financial missteps. Therefore, there is need for the military for the military leadership to enforce oversight rules, the director of Chaplain to strengthen accountability framework, the church authority to offer spiritual support, and the chaplain themselves to embrace financial contentment. This combined measure could sustain credibility and reinforce chaplains' integrity within the Nigerian Army. Moderate living. Moderate living could help chaplain build financial security, prioritizing needs over one's reduced spending on luxurious, allowing chaplains to allocate resources to essential obligations. This lifestyle enables chaplains to save consistently, reduce debt, and prepare for emergencies. By living moderately, they avoid financial strain of trying to match peers or maintain status symbols. This approach creates peace of mind, allowing chaplains to focus on ministry without distraction. In turn, discipline moderation promotes financial stability. Living below one's means also protects chaplains' family and strengthens their role as moral exemplars. By spending less than they earn, chaplain may reduce debt, accumulate savings, and pursue long-term financial goals. This requires intentional discipline and commitment, but it leads to peace and credibility. As Paul taught, having food and raiment, let us be therewith content. Therefore, there is need for chaplain to cultivate simplicity, church leaders to encourage moderation among clergy, and the military leadership to recognize modest living as a strength. This action could promote long-term financial and spiritual stability. Next is saving and investing wisely. Saving and investing wisely could provide chaplain with foundation for long-term security. By committing a portion of income to savings before other expenses, chaplain may build emergency funds and reduce dependence on debt. This habit supports resilience during crisis and sustain household needs. Investing in safe assets such as bonds, cooperative societies, or regulated funds could provide stable returns. Avoiding speculative schemes is essential, as they often result in greater loss and damage credibility. Investing wisely also helps chaplain achieve financial independence and peace. Investment is long-term opportunity, such as real estate, cooperative ventures, could generate sustainable income without ethical compromise. Entrepreneurship is modest. Transparent business may also provide additional income. However, avoiding gambling, pyramid schemes is crucial to maintain credibility. Therefore, there is the need for chaplain to prioritize savings before spending, church leaders to promote ethical investment awareness, and Nigerian Army leadership to encourage chaplains' participation in regulated opportunities. Such measures could strengthen resilience and preserve integrity across personal, professional, and ministerial life. Now, to what you are waiting for. In conclusion, this is what all of us are waiting for. In conclusion, personal, finance, and ministerial integrity are inseparably linked in chaplaincy practices. Chaplain's ability to manage money wisely directly influence morale, credibility, family stability, and professional effectiveness. Persistent inflations, social pressures, and financial illiteracy combine to weaken their resilience, forcing many into debt and risky ventures. Once compromised, integrity becomes difficult to restore, eroding trust in both ministry and military service. Therefore, there is need for Nigeria Army Authority to address chaplains' welfare through reforms that align salaries and allowances with prevailing economic reality. This could be achieved by reviewing salaries and allowances every 5 years. This would create a foundation for financial and ministerial stability. High social and spiritual expectation place unique strain on chaplains. Officers, soldiers, and congregants often depend on chaplains for financial relief during emergencies, while church obligations demand tithes, offering, and mission support. This pressure creates household tension and compromise professional focus. Families frequently resent constant sacrifices, while officers and soldiers may misinterpret refusal as lack of compassion and lack of compassion. Such dual pressure undermines chaplains' balance and weaken ministerial integrity. Therefore, there is need for church leaders to establish benevolent funds and military units to create welfare schemes, easing external demand while protecting chaplains' household from unnecessary strain. Another critical issue is limited financial literacy, which exposes chaplains to exploitation and poor decision-making. Without proper knowledge of budgeting, saving, and investment, many overspend or fall prey to fraudulent schemes. Some even unintentionally mislead congregants into unsafe ventures. Financial literacy is not only a personal need, but also a ministerial requirement that reinforces accountability. Addressing this gap is central to protecting chaplains from exploitation. Therefore, there is the need for the Nigerian Army Directorate of Chaplain to integrate structured financial education into training, while church leaders promote stewardship programs and prepare chaplains for disciplined financial management. Financial susceptibility to risky financial practices such as betting, Ponzi scheme, and unregulated ventures undermine both fiscal security and spiritual authority. This coping strategy, often driven by desperation, damage credibility and institutional trust. Officers and soldiers expect chaplains to model integrity, yet financial missteps erode confidence in their leadership. Risky practices also perpetuate indebtedness, distracting chaplains from ministerial and weakening operational cohesion. Therefore, there is the need for Nigerian Army leadership to enforce strict oversight against unregulated schemes, church leadership to provide counseling for affected chaplains, and chaplains themselves to embrace contentment and moderation in financial conducts. It is therefore recommended that Nigerian Army should introduce a 5-year regular reviewing of salary and structure, church leadership, and Nigerian Army units should establish benevolent funds. Nigerian Army Directorate of Chaplain should integrate structured financial education into training, Nigerian Army leadership should enforce strict oversight against unregulated schemes, and chaplains should embrace contentment and moderation in financial conduct. Thank you for your rapt attention.
For that well-inspiring, delivered lecture, let us give another resounding round of applause for our resource person. The resource person, sir, the Acting Director, Chaplain Services Processors, Nigerian Army, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, we acknowledge the presence of them, Onome Joy Adewi. You are welcome, ma'am. We also acknowledge in our midst one of our fathers in arms, Lieutenant Colonel A.H. Mohammed. You are welcome, sir. The resource person, sir, the Acting Director, Chaplain Services, Protestant Nigerian Army, invited guests, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. We are now at the second segment of today's lecture, which is the interactive section. I shall be humbly and most respectfully inviting to the podium the discussant for the second segment. To start with, please permit me to humbly and most respectfully invite to the stage our amiable, erudite, crack, seasoned, and gallant resource person of Colonel R.M. Kadala to the stage. You are welcome, sir. Please a round of applause. To moderate this session, I will invite my own amiable cosmate, Captain Venerable S.M. Adekule. Please put your hands together for my cosmate. Thank you, sir. Also to the stage, we want to invite our dear mother in Jerusalem, Dame Onome Joy Adewi. You are welcome, ma'am. Also, we invite to the stage one of our fathers in arms. If I can see very well, our father in God is also saying his cosmate to the 6th Div Deputy Director, Chaplain Services Protestant. Welcome on stage, Lieutenant Colonel A.H. Mohammed. Please, a round of applause for our discussant. You are welcome, sir. At this point, please permit me to hand over the microphone to the moderator of this session to please coordinate this session. Thank you.
The guest lecturer, sir, the Acting Director, Directorate of Chaplain Services Protestant, senior officers here present, officers, chaplain wives, members of the media team, ladies and gentlemen, as earlier announced, we are now in the second segment of the lecture, which has to do with discussion by the discussants. Thereafter, we shall entertain questions from both sides of the hall, after which the acting director will come up to sum up the session. I am Captain Venerable SM Adekunle, the moderator for this session. For the past 45 minutes or thereabouts, you all agree with me that we've listened to a well-prepared, packaged, and well-delivered lecture by our erudite lecturer. The theme for the lecture is Personal Finance and Ministerial Integrity, a critical study of chaplains in the Nigerian Army. Our lecturer started with giving us a definition of what personal finance is. And from his definition, personal finance was referred to as management of income, expenditure, debt, savings, and investments in order to achieve stability and security. We all know from yesterday, emphasis has been laid on who a chaplain is. So if you don't know who a chaplain is, by now you should be able to write a full note on who a chaplain is and the function of a chaplain. However, for sake of emphasis, I would also like to buttress that a chaplain is a spiritual officer, a commissioned officer who takes care of the spiritual and moral need of the troops and their family. Like his other peers, he is also faced with challenges, financial challenges, and balancing his salaries and allowances with a range of needs, both from family and even church members. Therefore, a chaplain has a tripartite function and nature. Not only does he attend to the needs of his family, but he attends to the needs of his members, he attends to the needs of his soldiers, inclusively financial needs. And as a result of this, the financial burden on chaplain is very, very much, which leads to chaplain involving in one or two vices that the lecturers have outlined. For instance, MMM, CBEX. It is not a new thing today that even chaplains are involved in betting, Baba Jebu, and the likes. However, there is something that was mentioned in the course of his lecture, ministerial integrity. This has to do with accountability, uprightness of a chaplain. Once ministerial integrity cannot be found in a chaplain, permit me to say this, that the function and role of that chaplain is in doubt and is in jeopardy. Hence, the need to uphold ministerial integrity among chaplains. Financial realities in Nigeria today, due to the galloping inflation that we are experiencing, also has a direct effect on the function and role of a chaplain, which includes, but not limited to, moral and well-being of the chaplain, his ministerial credibility, family stability, and even his professional effectiveness. As a result of the present-day reality financially, a chaplain is being affected, or his role, his responsibility is being affected by today's financial reality. We also talked about the challenges of sustaining personal finance and integrity of a chaplain. This also includes, but not limited to, inadequate income and inflation. We all know that our salaries were recently strengthened and hijacked. However, it is still the same song of salary is not enough that we are still even singing up till now. So we could see that inadequate income and inflation is a challenge. Secondly, high social and spiritual expectation. One good thing or bad thing about chaplain is nobody knows whether you don't have. Nobody knows whether you've eaten this morning or not. But one thing is that once a member comes to cry to you, they expect that their problems there and then should or must be solved. The unfortunate thing is that who will a chaplain now cry to for his own problems? Another challenge is limited financial literacy. I would like to expatiate here that as members come to us to seek for spiritual and moral guidance, we are not superhuman beings as chaplains. And therefore, it is pertinent that we must also seek financial help when the need arises. What are the strategies to come out of these challenges? One, as outlined by the revered lecturer, being an expert in the field of finance, he said salary and welfare reforms. He knows better, and he is campaigning that salaries and welfare should be reformed. Two, we should also seek financial literacy and development as chaplains. We shouldn't hide the fingers that is paining us. Rather, we should expose our own problems too. When we need financial help, I think we should reach out to professionals. Three, moderate living. The Bible is clear. Godliness with contentment is a great gain. And lastly, saving and investing wisely. As a chaplain, you must not eat with your 10 hands. You must save and think about the rainy days. Today you can move from point A to point B, but note that tomorrow, even when you want to, you might not have the strength to do what you are doing now. Therefore, it is pertinent that you work towards those days that you might not be as strong and effective as you are now. And he also recommended that the Nigerian Army should introduce a 5-year regular review of salary and emoluments. Secondly, Nigerian Army should integrate structured financial education and learning, even in chaplaincy curriculum. And lastly, our lecturer also emphasized on contentment and moderation in financial conduct. Again, you agree with me that our lecturer has done justice to this said topic today. So for that, please can we give our lecturer another resounding applause. At this juncture, I would like to invite our first discussant, Lieutenant Colonel A.H. Mohammed, to please share his view on the topic. Sir.
Our amiable resource person, my mentor, he cited that I'm a personal friend. Honestly, I see him more like an elder brother, one of the people I'd admire, although secretly, they serve as a guide to us. In the finance school, we have that saying, there are officers in finance, while there are finance officers. We have seen by their example, the hard places they serve and their principles we follow in their footprints. The Deputy Chief of Staff, G1, G4, 81 Division, Nigerian Army. Our host, the Director, Chaplain Service, Protestant, also my cosmate, Venerable, forgive me if I got it wrong, or my Reverend Father, as I call him, Lieutenant Colonel Amuluche, senior officers, gentlemen, please permit me to stand on the already established protocol. You all agree with me, as the moderator have earlier said, that the amiable resource person have done a great justice to the topic of discussion. That's Chaplain and his personal finance, even though on the basis of research methodology, he transformed the topic into personal finances, managerial integrity, a case study of chaplain service. Without saying much, permit me to first look at the general picture of what the lecture portrays before making points on some aspect of it that really catch my attentions. Then what I will do, rather than calling it discussion, I think it's just to look at all the points raised in the course of the lecture from another angle, or using simple language for the benefit of the participant. Just like I have said, the moderator has already given general highlight of the lecture. Like I understand it too, what the guest lecturer did, the resource person, he has tried to give us the general picture of who a chaplain is and what is expected of him. And he also reminds us that chaplain, being a human being, is exposed to whatever other nationals, other human beings are also facing in terms of economic reality, the hard economic reality, the inflation, the high cost of living, therefore the need to discharge his responsibility effectively by balancing both personal responsibility of being a father, being a husband, being a brother, to the ministerial responsibility of providing guidance for others, which include spiritual guidance and living as an example for them. The guest lecturer mentioned aspect of limited salary and other allowances, which further buttresses and compound pressure on the chaplain. Therefore, pushing them to the common survival instinct of all living creatures, which human family is not also an exception. Permit me not to mention all the general highlights because the moderator has talked about them. The effect of financial realities on ministerial integrity, all other challenges in brief, which covers inadequate incomes, inflation, the high social expectations others are having coupled with the spiritual expectations, the pressure of balancing family life, administrator obligations, limited financial literacies, and susceptibility to risky financial practices. The guest lecturer, sir, I don't want to say much out of what you have said. My advices, before going to my point, will center around what I understand of how to balance that personal life and personal finances of a chaplain with the ministerial obligations. Just like I have said earlier, personal financial management, as one of the key aspects mentioned, has to do with generally what I call financial discipline. And I'm going to buttress my points along the line of financial disciplines. So therefore, the answer to balancing personal financial responsibilities and managerial financial responsibilities is what we generally know as financial independence. The participant, the senior officers, gentlemen, you will all agree with me that financial independence is not easy to achieve. It all hinges on financial discipline, like over the course of the lecture, the guest lecturer has been buttressing, which, like I have said, I'm going to look